Welcome back everybody to our SUSE Linux Enterprise Server 12 training workshop. This is where we're going to learn Linux the easy way. My name is Jaco Foster and I am a SUSE certified training engineer for SAP Tech. Today we have quite a bit to cover, so we will be going into our agenda quite quickly. The topics that we'll be discussing today is YaST and user management. Our engineers and my colleagues are on standby to answer any of your topic related questions. Let's go to our first lesson. Let's have a look at YaST. YaST stands for Yet Another Setup Tool. So what's the main purpose for YaST? YaST is a local system configuration tool for Linux, and it's most prominently used by the SUSE Linux Enterprise Server and OpenSUSE. Using YaST, you can configure your network, storage devices, software, system settings, and most network services. And YaST is shipped as part of our SLES operating system. Then YaST always needs super user privileges. For example, either sudo access or root access. The appearance of the user interface depends on which command you use to start YaST. So what does that mean? YaST has 4 different user interfaces. The first one is our command line non-interactive interface, then a command line interactive, then a graphical, and then lastly a non-graphical interface. The non-graphical interface is known as the ncurses version of YaST. When we look at our non-interactive version of the interface, we can interactively give YaST a command to do installation for us in this sense. So here we've done a YaST -i to install us a package called XRDP. This installs the XRDP package and it will look something like this. You will note that this command was run under the root user. The root user's color is red. It tells you're now in a very dangerous zone and you can make mistakes on the server if you're not certain what you are doing. So also to note is that this function has been deprecated and only still works in SLES 12, no longer in SLES 15. Our next interface is an example of the line interactive, and this is where we type the command YaST, LAN, and interactive. That means we don't open up the LAN module in YaST, we communicate with the LAN module on the command line. And here we can give instructions through YaST to our network interface. Another interface is our graphical interface. And we can open up the graphical interface from command line using the YaST2 command, but we need to run it as the root user. Otherwise, it will still open up the ncurses version if you use the sudo command as our tux user. We can also do the non-graphical version, which are ncurses, and there we can just do a sudo YaST directly and it will open up the ncurses version of YaST. To navigate YaST, we first need to understand the layout of YaST. The categories are on the left and is organized in various modules. So into loosely separated topics such as software, network services, security, system, virtualization. So all of those topics are here on our left-hand side. When we select a category on the left, it displays the contained modules on the right. So here are all our modules that we can run. To also navigate the non-graphical version of YaST, we cannot use a mouse, but we can use our keyboard function keys. So the first key we use is our tab key. This moves the focus from the one frame to the next frame or to the next item. So this is currently our focus there where the blue line is. If we want to move over to this frame to the right, we will need to press the tab button. We can also press Shift tab if we want to move the focus back or even a previous item. So once we are on this side and we want to go back to our categories, then we press the Shift and Tab button. We must then use our arrow keys to navigate inside our frames. So we can use the up, down, left and right. So should there be a bar where we can navigate to the right, like a navigation bar, then we just press to the right and we keep on holding the right button and the navigation bar will automatically move. If we want to select or deselect a highlighted item, we can press the space bar to select or deselect. This will most commonly be used in our software installation portions and a few other functions. Then we press the enter button to enter a menu or a button. Then we can also use the shortcut key, the Alt plus the highlighted character. So when we press the Alt key and the highlighted character, for example, the H in help, the R in run, or the Q in quit, it doesn't need to be capital, it just needs to be that specific button. So it will be Alt and that button, lowercase r, lowercase q in this case. Then it will automatically open up the run function or even the quit function to quit YaST, Alt Q to quit. So it can execute a command if it's the highlighted character as just explained. It can also jump to that specific frame. Should that frame have a highlighted character in there, we can jump, instead of pressing tab, we can jump into that frame by pressing Alt and a corresponding color key. Other options we have is our help option here at the bottom left by pressing F1, and then our quit option is also with F9, just a quick way of quitting. Now let's open up YaST on our server. Let's just bring up our server. There we go. Here's my server, and I'm going to open up terminal. And I'm just going to maximize my screen, then I'm going to view, and I'm going to zoom in. You'll see I'm not zooming in that big today because the YaST uses a lot more space on the screen. But I'm still certain you'll be able to follow me. So let's type in YaST, and we hit the enter key. Here we can see that we may require super user privileges, for example root. That's why YaST didn't launch. So we do know we have access to the sudo user, and we can type in sudo space YaST. Look at my spelling. Let's go sudo space YaST, and that will launch the YaST console for us, the ncurses mode. Now we're inside our YaST control center. On the left hand side we've got our categories, and on the right hand side we have the available modules we can open. To navigate from the left hand side to the right hand side's frame, we must press the tab button. So let's go tab. If I press tab again, it will start navigating through all the available options and frames throughout the screen. So if we want to go back to the previous position of tab, we just press Shift tab and it will go back and it will navigate in the opposite direction. Tab to the other direction and opposite, there we go. Then we can use our arrow keys to navigate a frame. I'll just take my mouse out of the way. So here's our frame. You'll also note that my mouse don't work inside my ncurses version of YaST. I can highlight things, but I cannot execute anything with the mouse. I'm going to take it out of the way. If we use our arrow keys and we go up and down, we can navigate through all the categories to see what's available. So in software, we've got our online updates, our software management, add system extension or modules, and a few others. In system, we've got our bootloader, our config files. We will be using network settings quite a bit. We'll be using the partition later on quite a bit. In hardware, we can work with printers and sound and our keyboard layout. Network services is all other network related services that we can modify. Even our host names we can modify from here, which is our hosts file. Then at security and users, we can look at our sudo commands, we can look at our firewall, we can even look at our user and group management, where we will be working up in one of our following sessions. Then our virtualizations, where we can install hypervisor tools, some support, release notes and support, and miscellaneous is where we will do some auto installation setups and configurations. We can use Snapper and we can view the system log from here. Now, if we would like to navigate to one of these options, we need to highlight that specific option. So let's go to System, highlight System, navigate to our modules, and then go down to Network Settings. Now, just before we go into Network Settings, if we want to enter the network settings, we must press the Enter key. At this stage, there's nothing to select or deselect because there's no option on it, but spacebar will do that function for us. To enter network settings, we must press Enter. But then we also have the Alt and the highlighted character which we can use. So if we were to navigate to the help, we would press the Alt and H key. It doesn't need to be a capital H, it can be the lowercase h. It's not case sensitive to follow the Alt and character key. So we press Alt, H, lowercase h for help, run to open up a run command, and Q to quit the YaST control panel. Other options quickly just before we carry on with the network settings is the F1 key for help and F9 key to quit YaST. Now let's open up our network settings. I know it's already highlighted, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to enter our network settings. And now it's loading the network config and the network module for us to utilize. We're not going to make any changes yet, but let's see if we can navigate here. Over here we can see there's a whole lot of yellow keys. Do you see that? Okay. And we can navigate to any of these yellow keys or characters by pressing Alt and a corresponding key. So if we would like to navigate to the user, to routing, we need to press the Alt and U button and we'll quickly navigate to routing. We can also navigate to host names by pressing Alt S. There's our Alt S. We can also use the arrow keys to navigate our tabs at the top, left and right. And you will see this is stuck inside a frame. Follow that white line. That's our frame. So if we want to jump to the next frame and we are on overview, we press the tab key to jump to the next frame. But have a look here at the bottom. Do you see this little line here at this bottom? Looks like a broken line inside the frame. This is actually our scroll bar, and we can see there's some information on the right that we cannot view. So let's press our right key to move our scroll bar. And now we can view what was the hidden information in there. There's a note, but there's no details there yet. So we must look for the scroll bar to be able to use it. You can tap again to navigate to the next frame, and tap again until you get to the command you want to do. So this is our cancel command. You can either just hit now enter on cancel, or you can press the Alt C to cancel the LAN settings. So now we have quit the LAN settings, and we are back to our landing page within YaST, where we can select our modules and categories. We're not going to look at anything else. Let's quickly continue with some of our slides. Let's press the Alt and Q to quit our YaST. Alt Q to quit. And now we have quit. Let's now discuss the modules in YaST. So we've got YaST has a series of modules that allow configuration to various components. Then also modules allow you to configure the product according to your needs. Then each module has a clearly defined scope. And here is a list of some of the modules that we might be using. So LAN configured the network in SLES. And then we've got our firewall to view and change the firewall settings. We've got the NFS module to configure an NFS client. We've got the NFS underscore server to set up and configure an NFS server. Then we have got the module disk, which is our partitioner, and we'll manage our disk space and partitions. Then we've got the SCC, and this will configure the SUSE Customer Center configuration and subscription information. Then we can do our sudo to modify the sudo properties and settings. And then SW software underscore single will add or remove our software packages. To be able to see what modules is available within YaST from the command line, we use the YaST space-L command. And this will list all our available modules. Here's an example thereof. Please take note that I've done this as the root user. Then you can also list it by doing a YaST, then tab. And then it will quickly list us all the modules in a much easier way to read it. And then you can select the correct module by typing it out and enter it, and it will take you directly into that module. Then we will be using the YaST users to quickly see how this shortcut works to open up the users from YaST, from the command line. Let's open up our server. Just trying to find my server. There we go. Here's my server. So now we're going to do the YaST L command. Right, we do YaST L. And we type in the YaST -L, and this should list it. Oh no, it does not list it. Why? Because we need to have super user privileges. So we can do it if we do a sudo, and we do YaST -L and enter now, and there it lists all our modules. I'm just scrolling up with my wheel on the mouse. This is scroll my bar here on the right hand side. You can also use the mouse to navigate there. Okay. Let's try to do the YaST tab. Now let's do a sudo YaST tab. And it brings up all the available commands. And now you will see that we still have our command written out there, so we must just choose the correct command. We will use the users this time. So let's type in users and press enter. and this will open up our users module directly from the command line. Okay, let's hit cancel. We don't want to change anything there, so we can press Alt-C to cancel. And we are back to the command line. You can also open up the users from within YaST. Let's test that quickly. We go sudo, because we need super user privileges, and we type in YaST. Let's navigate to security and users. Press the tab button, and then we go down to the user and group management. Press enter on the user and group management once highlighted. Just wait for it to load, and there we are back within the user management. Now this took quite a bit longer just to get to this portion, so we can save time by knowing which module we want to run in the command line instead of navigating through everything. So let's press the Alt-C button to cancel and Alt-Q to quit. Our next topic is user management. With user management, we need to understand that each user has a unique user ID and a group has a unique group ID. So since operatings may handle numbers a bit better than strings, user groups are administered as numbers within Linux. Let's have a look at the user IDs, or the UID in short. This is the number representing each user. So the root user will always represent the number 0, or the 0 will represent the root user. Then number 1 to 99 is kept for the system users. Any other system users will use these numbers. Then system accounts will be using 100 up until 499. And then our normal users, the users that we will be creating, will start from 1000 upwards. So for example, our user as Tux is the first normal user, and that should be 1000 if it was chosen automatically. When we look at our group IDs, or in short the GID, this is also the number representing a group, and it works with users as members. So the 0 will represent the root group. Then system groups are from 1 to 99, and then the group ID for dynamically allocated system groups will be from 100 till 499. Then the groups we will be creating will run from 1000 onwards as normal groups. We can display the user information using a few commands within our shell. Let's first look at what commands can we use to display which users are logged on and so forth. So the first command we'll be looking at is the whoami user. So you'll just type in who am I, and it will display the user information of the current user, your current user. Then you can also look at the ID of a specific user by pressing the command ID and the username you want to see. This will display the user ID, the group ID, and any other groups which the user is part of. If we use the command groups, we can list the groups the user is a member of. For example, if we type groups Tux, it will list all the groups that Tux is part of. We can do the same with groups root. Then there's a finger command, like touching your finger. So by pressing the normal finger, or entering the normal finger command, it displays all users that are currently logged on. You can also use finger space tux to display the logon details of the tux user, and the same for finger root. Should root have been logged on, will display the logon details for the root user. Then something else we can take note of is that users and groups, their data resides in database files. So users and groups and passwords are kept in the following files. So users are kept in /etc password and contains the user account information, but excludes the password for that user. So you cannot see the password inside the passwd file. Then passwords are within the etc shadow. Now this contains the account password hashes. This means the encrypted password are listed here. You still cannot see the password. And you can also make changes to the password policies. Then when it comes to groups, the groups data is located at etc/group, and it contains all the group information, for instance the names and the members. Now let's do these commands on our server. Okay, let's quickly open up the server. Alright, and let's clear out our screen so we can have a clear canvas. Great. Our first command that we will run will be the who am I. So we go who am I, and we type that command. And it will tell us, yes, you are the tux user. Well done. So let's do the next command, which is our ID command. So we'll type in ID and do tux. Here we go. And here we can see that the user ID for tux started at 1000. Then the group ID for the user group called users is 100. And the only group that tux belongs to is the users group. If there was any others, it would have been listed at the back. Let's do ID root. Here we can see the root users ID is 0, and the group ID for the root group is also 0, and root only belongs to the root group at this stage. Our next command is the groups command. So let's type in groups, and we would like to see to which groups does tux belong. And it states that tux belongs to the users group only. Let's do the same for the root user. So we go groups and we type in root and say root, to which groups do you belong, and type enter, and we'll see that a root user belongs to the root group only. Now let's try the finger command. We'll first do the normal finger command as listed over here. So we type in finger, and it tells us what user is logged on currently on the system. So when you change to the root user, it does not see this as a new logon because you're still logged on the terminal of the tux user. So this is our terminal. Then we've got our console, and we've got our graphical display over there. So now we can see which one is logged on. Now we do the finger tux user. Let's see what information we get. There should be more detail now. Let's go finger tux, and this tells us the login name that's currently logged in is tux, and his full name is also tux. Then the home directory for tux is /home/tux, and which is the default shell that has been allocated to the user tux. We can also see some messages or system messages on here, and there's no mail for the user tux. We can also do finger root. Type in finger root and let's see what information we get. And finger root states that the login is root, the name is root, the home directory for root is /root, and then we also use the bash shell, but this user has never logged in, meaning we have never logged into this user from the system to start up with the GUI for this instance. Alright, and that's that for this exercise. Let's quickly see what's up next. So next we look at the contents of the etc passwd. To be able to view the contents of the etc passwd, we can cat the details, and we'll use the cat /etc/passwd command, and it will give us an output similar to this. Now, to see what all of these characters means, they are grouped out and separated by a colon. Do you see that? Okay. So first up is the login name for our user, which is located here. So all the users that's registered on the system will have its own line with the information in here. So the first one we've got here as an example is the user called Kiko, and its password is an X. Now we cannot see the password, but this means a password is set, and this password will be in one of the other files. We'll see that next. Then we've got our user ID displayed inside a file, which is the user 1000. We've got the primary group listed in here as well, which is the group 100. Then this is a comments section. Now currently the comments section are mainly used for our full name. It's also known as the geekos section. Then the next section we'll be looking at is our home directory. So now we know where is our home directory for the user Geeko by viewing the file etc password. Then lastly, our shell is being displayed or noted within the password file. So let's quickly try to do the command on our server. So to open up your server, I still have my server open. And first clear our screen. So now we have cleared our screen, and let's type the cat command. We go cat /etc/passwd. And this is our passwd contents. At the very bottom, we will see that our user tux is there. There's a password set for it. Our user ID is over here, and then we've got our user group, and we've got the full name called tux, and our home directory is listed, and then our default shell is listed. Next up, let's have a look at the next slide, which is our contents of the etc shadow. Now there's a whole lot more detail in here. Now this contains, I would say, more privileged information, and we will not be able to view this information just by using the normal command. We'll need to have elevated access or privileges to look at this, but we'll do that shortly. So first up, let's have a look at the first section. Again, they're separated by the colons. So the first one is our login name. The next section is our hashed passwords. And a user can log in without a password, and you need to set it here with one of the keys. Then we'll log in without a password. Definitely not recommended, but possible. Then the last change. So what does the last change mean? This is counted in days. Everything from here onwards is counted in days. So our last change is the date of the last password change. Now we have created the password, but we've never changed the password. So it calculates all the days from January the 1st, 1970. Then the next possible change is the minimum days before it can be changed, must be noted over here. So 0 means infinity. There's no forced next possible change unless the days it can be used before expiry. Now you can note this here to say how many days you can use before the password expires. Currently quite high. Then the warning days before the expiration warning is issued. If you want to have a warning, you must set the amount of days, or -1 will disable the warning sign. Then our grace limit. The days after the expiry can still log in. So even after our password has expired, do we want to give our user extra days because he didn't change it? So -1 will be unlimited days. Then our expiration or lock, the date when account expires. You can put a date format in there, leave it empty if the account never expires. Now you will note there at the back is another colon. Now that colon is left open on purpose for future use should ever it be utilized within Linux. Alright, let's quickly open up our server and run this command. So again, I will quickly clear my screen first to have a clean screen, and we will run the cat command. Now we expect to have issues here because this is more privileged information. So we go etc/shadow, and let's see if we can open up. Say no. This is you need the right access to see this content. This time we will use the sudo command. So let's type sudo cat/etc/shadow. And now we can see the contents hereof. So at the very bottom, we've got our tux user. And then we can see our hashed password over here. Quite a long hash. And then we've got our last change over there. Then we've got our next possible change and our forced change. And we've got the warning time and the grace limits. All of the others are not set. Okay, everybody got that? Let's carry on with our next slide. Let's look at the contents of the etc group. And this is where all our group information gets stored. So to view the etc contents, we'll go cat /etc/group. So we can view the contents thereof. So let's have a look at the fields of the group. Again, it's separated by a colon. So we've got our group name, called video in this case, and then we've got our group password, which will be the little X over there if it is set. And then we've got a group ID, which we will see over here. So the video has a 33 ID number. And then a list of secondary group members who is using this group or has access to this group or is part of this group for that matter. So let's quickly bring up our server and type these details. Okay, here's my server. Let's clear the screen and we'll do the command as is first. So go etc/group, and we've got access to that, and this is all the groups that is currently listed. Let's go search for the users. Here we go. So tux we know now is part of the users group, And here we can see that it's not listed as a secondary user, so it's not listed over here on the right hand side. Okay, let's quickly close our server and carry on with the next content. Now let's look at managing our users and groups from the command line. The first command that we'll look at is the su space minus command. So the su space minus command shows us we can switch the user, but that minus has a very specific task. That tells us when we switch the user, it will also switch with that user's environmental settings enabled. So you can switch a user without the minus sign, but that might become very messy and not recommended. So we'll do a su space minus space root to switch to root and all the environmental settings that goes with root. Another way of switching user is using our sudo command. And we can do sudo, and we can either do sudo su space minus, or we can just do a sudo space minus I. This will also do very similar than the sudo space minus, the sudo su space minus. You will also switch it with the same environmental settings. Just a shorter command to do and a lot quicker to enter the root user. Another command that we can use is the user add command. We can use the user add command to create users, but should we wish to also create the user's home folder, we add the -m option to create the home folder. The command will look like this: user add -m space Sam. So in our practical, we'll be adding two users, Sam and Pat. Then we can add groups using a similar command, which is group add. So the group add and space office will create for us a group called office. To modify a user, we use the user mod command. So we can change the user's main group with the option -g. So to modify a user, we'll use the command user mod space -g, and then we first state what should the new group be. And this will be office, and we'll give Sam the new group as his primary group. We can also modify the group's ID by using the group mod command, and we can use the -g to change the group's ID to 120 instead of 100. So the syntax is group mod space -g space 120 space then office. Then we can delete a user by using user del and using the option to also delete the home folder -r. Should you wish to delete a user and not delete the data within the user's home folder, then do not use the -r option. Then our group delete command is the group delete space and then whatever group name you would like to delete, and it will delete our groups. To change a password for a user, you can only change your own password unless you have super user access. So to change the password for Pat, we must be either logged in as the user Pat or have super user access. For example, sudo space passwd space Pat, and then we can change Pat's password if we are not logged in as Pat. If we were logged in as user Tux, we would not be able to execute this command because Tux do not have the right privileges. We can do this directly from root as well. logged in as a root user, you can just type in the password passwd space pat, and it will give you the option to change the password. So let's run all of these commands on our server. Bring up your server quickly. Let's try to find mine. Here it is. And before we start, enter clear to clear our canvas. Our first command we'll be running is the su minus command. So I'm going to first just type in su minus and see what happens. Now it asks us to enter the password for this user. Because we haven't stated which user we want to go to, it assumes we want to be the root user. So I'm not going to type a password. We know the password is Linux. I'm just going to hit Ctrl+C to type in the right command. I wanted to show you how you can switch user without specifying the root user. So now you can do su minus root, and that should also switch to the root user and then ask us for the password. So let's do that. Let's type in Linux in lowercase and hit enter, and then we navigate now into the root user's permissions. So you will see the color changes, and the color changes, and we are now into the home folder of the root user. So where is the home folder of the user while we are in here? Can you remember the command we used to see which is our current working directory? Print working directory. And we will see that the home for root is at /root, not like tux. Let's try something else. Let's exit this user, press exit. And now we are back at our user folder. Just for the fun thereof, print working directory to see where's our tux users home folder, just to compare it to root. Now let's do the sudo -i command to see if we can switch user without typing a password this time. We go sudo -i, and that takes us directly into our sudo user. I'm just going to exit this and show you one more method. You go exit. We've logged out of the root user, and now let's quickly go sudo su minus. So this means we're going to switch to the root user because we're not specifying this, but we're using our sudo command to switch to this user, and we can still switch to our root user. Okay, great. Now all the commands we're going to run here on in, we need to be the root user, just for the ease thereof. So clear your screen from here on. Okay, now our screen is cleared. Let's run all of these commands on the left hand side. We will start by adding a new user called Sam. So let's go user, add, and we want to create a home directory for this user, and we give it a name Sam, and hit enter. Alright, before we open add the user Pat, let's see how our current home directory looks like. Let's go ll/home, and we hit enter. We already have a tux user, and now we see we have created the SAM user with the home folder already by the -m command. Let's go do the next user. User add -m, and we do our pat. And now we've created another user called Pat. Okay, so before we continue, let's have a look at the home folder state right now. So we go ll/home, home, and see there our other user is also created. Great. Let's do a ID for Pat and for Sam. Let's go ID Pat, and we can see that Pat is part of the users group 100, and the ID for him is 1002. Let's go ID for Sam. ID Sam. And we can see that Sam is a 1001 user. And if you remember correctly, tux was 1000. So now it's adding up the numbers to create the users sequentially. Our next command is we are going to add a group called Office. Command is group add Office. Let's do a groups for Pet and a groups command for Sam, just to see to which groups they currently belong to. We can see Pat is with users and Sam is also with users. So our next command we will be running is to modify our group for Office to the group ID of 120. Oh, sorry, no, I'm wrong. One up. Let's first do our user mod, and we will change the group for Sam to Office. Let's do that. There you go, user mod, and we'll do change the group to Office for Sam, and we hit enter. Now to see what group Sam belongs to, now let's do groups, and we do Sam, and now Sam belongs to the Office group. We can also do ID Sam to see that the primary group have changed for Sam to the Office group at this stage. Let's see if we can change the group number for the group ID for the Office group. So let's do a group mod -G, and we'll do 120 in there, and Office. So it is to change our group ID. Now we know that Sam is part of this group, so to view that quickly, the easiest is just do an ID on Sam. And now we can see we were able to change the group ID with this command. We can now also delete users and groups. So let's quickly do that as well. And we can do the user delete -R Sam. Just spell it correctly, user del -R Sam. So this will delete our user and its home directory. If you remember here at the top, there's our home directories already located. So this should delete our Sam user. Okay, it will tell us there's no cron tab for Sam. Now cron tab we'll discuss in a later course. Let's go ll home. /home, people. There we go, /home. And we can see that our Sam directory has been deleted with the -R. Should we not have used the -R, then that directory would still reside under home, and we would have not lost the contents thereof. So let's do a group delete, one word, group delete and Office. And now we will delete the group Office, and the group is deleted. Our last command for this section is our passwd command to give a new password for Pat. So we must take note that we are currently the root user. So the root user can run this command on Pat's behalf. So we go passwd and we go Pat. And now it's asked us, Pat, we can give you a new password. And the password will be Linux. Type in Linux and it retypes the password to Linux as well. I hit enter. The password was updated successfully. So we didn't use a very secure password, that's why it's complaining over here. Bad password is too short and it's too simple. We know, but just for this course, this is more than adequate. So let's carry on to our next slide. With our next slide, we want to manage users via the YaST module and also the graphical YaST. So how will we do that? Let's go back to our server and see if we can remember one of the commands that we ran previously. We ran YaST. Oh, sorry, I'm not typing there. There we go. We ran YaST and we ran the users command, and that will open up directly into our ncurses mode for YaST. Let's do so. Just wait for it to load. Great, and that's what I wanted to show you. Everything that we did by command line, we can completely manage and add or use within our YaST ncurses mode. So here we are in the ncurses mode, and we can see the current users is Tux and Pat. Remember those. So let's quickly go add another user, the A button. So the shortcut for that is the Alt A. You can tab it out as well. So that's going to ask for the full user's name. Let's go add Sam back. So hello Sam, we want you back. Then we can tab and we go to the password. Let's give it a password. We go Linux. Password is Linux and hit OK. You can either tab till you get to the OK, or you can press the Alt O key. So I'm going to hit enter. The password is too short and we didn't give it a really secure password. So we're really happy with that. Yes, we are. Alt yes, or just hit enter. And now we see we have our Sam user back. You can edit a user by just pressing the Alt I button. So let's go Alt I, and here we can edit our user to either change the password. Let's go to the very top at Alt D for the details. Here we can make changes to our user. We can change the home directories. We can add additional groups on the right hand side for this user. We can make some password settings, change some password settings over here. Here we go. This brings up that shadow file for us. So instead of editing the shadow file, we can do it in the YaST module. So let's press Alt OK to finish up with this user. Alt O for OK. We can also manage our groups from here. So if you go to the very top, you can tab until you get to the very top tabs, and you can go to the right and you'll find groups over there. And here we can also add groups again by pressing the Alt A key. Add groups. And our group we used last was Office. Let's put Office back. Put Office back. Don't change anything. We can add passwords to the group if we really need to, but we're not going to do so right now, and press Alt O for OK. And there is our Office group created. Go back to the users and let's go add Sam to the Office user again. So let's go edit Sam, Alt I to edit, and we go to the details portion at the top. That's Alt D for details. and you'll see on the right hand side is our groups. So I'm just going to navigate quickly there by pressing the Alt-A button for the additional groups over here. So Alt-A, I get to that portion. And take note, here's a scroll bar on the right hand side. So that means there's a whole lot of extra groups down here should I be scrolling up and down. Now to add Sam to this group, we have to press the space button to mark it. Do you see? Space will mark it as an X. And you can then, once we are done, we can press the F10 button for OK. Let's do that. Oh, wrong button, sorry. I don't see my OK, but I think my OK is hidden at the bottom then. Let's go Alt-O for OK. There we go. I'm just going to take a sip of water. Just give me a moment. There we go. So we've got our user Sam as part of the Office group as well, and the users group. Let's carry on and clear off these users and delete them. So to delete a user, we go Alt-T to delete. Alt-T, delete a user, yes. Alt and Pat, also delete, Alt-T, delete Pat. And now it's asking, do you want to delete his home folder? Let's put space in there. It will mark it as an X. Look there. And hit yes. Alt-Y. Alright, I'm back. So let's go to Alt-G to go to our groups. And we can also delete our Office group. To do so, we will do the Alt-T to delete. Really want to delete the Office group, we go yes. And it is deleted. So we are done with the user management inside YaST. Let's press OK. And now we have exited. Let's try to open up the YaST 2 GUI version, which is this one over here. To do so, we need to be a root user, which we already are. Let's ensure that. Let's go, who am I? Type that out. Hit enter and say, well, you are already the root user. We can see that by the color red. The red means we are a very privileged user. Now let's open up the graphical version of YaST. For some reason, mine have lost focus. And come on. There we go. So now we can go to this system tools and we can click on YaST. So before we can open up YaST, it asks us for a password. Our password for this root user is Linux, and we'll hit enter. And this is also the last time we'll be opening up the graphical version of YaST. So let's search for the users there on top, and we can find the user in group management. You click once on it. Okay, and we wait for it to launch. It's nearly there, just give it a moment. There we go. And here we've got exactly the same layout, or a very similar layout than the ncurses version. You will see we've got our add buttons, edit buttons, delete buttons, but here our mouse works. And we can add groups and maintain groups and users from this version. We don't utilize the graphical YaST in our course because we want to teach you to get yourself familiar with the ncurses version. It's easy to click with a mouse, but a lot harder to navigate with your keys. Alright, and that brings us to the end of the user management course. This brings us to the end of today's session. I trust you found the content informative and feel like you have learned something. We now have a few moments to answer some questions. And for longer technical questions, please send us a mail to suze@sabttech.com. I am Jaco Foster from SABNT Tech, and I will see you next week, Monday. Enjoy your weekend. Keep well.